Hey guys, I'm Brandon Hall. I'm the Student Ministries Pastor here at ABC. Thanks for stopping by our Highlife channel. Enjoy the message from last week.
You know, my mind goes back to this time when I was about 7 years old, and I was at my cousin's house, and I remember seeing this verse in a frame on a wall, and I was reading it, and I was like, wow, Jesus. You know, that's basically him, and the verse went like this. It says, "For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace." And I remember seeing that and just going, wow, not only is it written in a cool font, those are some powerful words. And that's the first image I see. The second is this tree that's literally from the floor to this like 30-foot vaulted ceiling. Every Christmas I'm like, did they like have to go into the sequoias and like get a special extra large tree permit to chop this thing down and have it shipped? Because this thing is so ginormous, it just puts all other Christmas trees to shame, and just the meticulous detail of every ornament. You know, they definitely didn't have their toddlers decorate. They probably brought someone in. And then the third thing is my cousin and I were talking, and I'm like, hey, what do you want for Christmas? Because I want this sword that you like push a button and it lights up, and then maybe like an RC car. You know, I had my two things, and my cousin was like, hold on. And he runs downstairs, goes into this drawer, opens the drawer, and there's literally this paper that was like a scroll, and he unravels this scroll of a Christmas list, and it's just item after item, and it's laser tag, and I'm like, dude, isn't that like what you go and pay a play? He's like, no, I want my own laser tag. I want RC cars, but not RC car, not just like Radio Shack. I want the gas-powered one, and then paintball gun, and he just listed all these things, snowboard, and I'm like, yeah, I want the light-up sword. You know, just if I got that sword, it'd be sweet. And I remember going to Christmas there and realizing there's so much that goes into Christmas every year, right? Every year you get your decorations out and you put them up and you decorate and you light things up, and there's a pretty great light that shines around your house after you hang the lights. But so often, like that verse I saw on the wall, so often we hang up verses. We hang up decorations. But really what's our focus is what we're going to get out of Christmas, right? I think as kids, as youth, as you're thinking about, man, what am I going to get? And then once you open it, nowadays you open your gift and then you have to arrange it just so you could post that picture on Snapchat, or you could get the video just right of you opening a gift, or whatever it is, that you're so concerned about what you're going to get, what it's going to look like, that I think a lot of times our focus moves from the gift that God gave us in Jesus and focusing on what that means for us, what that looks like for us to receive that gift and walk in that truth. And so often we're so concerned with filling out this huge Christmas list of everything we want or could need, and we're focused on that. And to be honest, when I looked at his list compared to mine, I was like, dude, I got to step up my Christmas list game, because mine's weak. You know, I got 2 things and you have like 28 things. Like there's a vast difference here. Apparently I don't love the world as much as you do, and probably I should. Like I should want more things. And there's that temptation. You know, there's not a day that goes by you look at what someone else has and you're like, oh, I kind of want that. And when Isaiah wrote this verse, Israel was God's people. He chose them and said, you guys are my people, and you're going to show the whole world what it looks like to be my people and how awesome it is to follow me and love me, and I'm going to take care of you, and you're going to be this great light and example of the world. And they said, that's cool and all, but that country looks different, and I want to do what they're doing. And they were so consumed with getting things in this world. Literally, they were so focused on what this world can give them that they forgot all about what it looks like to follow God and obey Him and really live like Him. They were so concerned with their Snapchat feeds, their Instagram feeds, and how many things they were liking and what they were doing on the weekends. They were so focused on the immediate, the temporary. They weren't thinking, hey, you know what? There's a kid over there that sits by himself every break, every lunch. No one talks to him. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to walk over there and talk to him. You know, I just think so much of the time we as I speaking from experience, in high school, you huddle up, right? It's this natural thing where you just circle up and you start talking, and then conversation goes, and people just get forgotten or passed by, and you're just focused on what you're talking about, conversation, and whatever was on the news, whatever, we just came out of this pretty heated governmental election, presidential thing, and the reason I even bring that up is because there's so much in this world in this time that we're looking for relief, or we're looking for direction, and we're looking for even just the direction of our conversation. And you look back, as I remember sometimes leaving those circles and going, you know what, did we talk about anything that mattered? There's this kid by himself. Who's talked to him? Who's hung out with him? And as you think about the Christmas season coming in, what does that mean? What does that mean that Jesus became a baby? You ever think about that? How stupid is that? Who cares about how powerful a baby is? In the sense that God forever told his people, I'm going to come in, the mighty warrior king's going to come and rule and reign, and going to wipe away all the tyrannical governments that have been oppressing my people. And so they're looking for this mighty warrior, David-like giant slayer king. And then all of a sudden a baby appears on the scene. The most innocent, helpless, dependent. And you think about it, that's what we celebrate. We celebrate the birth of Jesus. And we open up boxes, and we wrap presents, and then we give ourselves presents, and we sit by the fire in our warm homes, and we decorate a tree. And honestly, this season, I struggle with the fact that it's all about me. Right after we got done with the turkey, I was like, hey, Jenna, you're going shopping? Guess what? Apple TV, the new one, it's on sale at Target. You want to, And she's like, we talked about this. We're not there. I'm like, but it's on sale. We got it. I want it. I'll sell this. We'll get this. And there's constant tension. What do I have and what do I not have? What do I have and what do I not have? And what do other people have around me? And so much of the time we're focused on that. So much of the time we want a nice recliner, we want our fire, we want our tree, we want our presents, and we can't wait to get the opportunity to dive into what those gifts are. And that's what this series is all about. It's saying, okay, let's get out of the chair. Let's figure out what Jesus really means. What Jesus really means to you and me. What difference does it make that he was born as a baby? Was there even any indication that he was coming as a baby? Was there any indication that he was coming at all? Why in the world does Isaiah write this verse? And why in the world has literally the past week I have not looked at a wall or a picture or a piece of paper on a wall or Instagram and not seen this verse? It's been everywhere. Every Christmas it seems like, okay, it's Christmas time, let's get Isaiah 9:6 out, put it up on the wall, and then Christmas is over. What do we do with the verse? Crinkle it up and throw it away. And we pull our decorations away and we move on to January. New year, new you. It's all about me going to the gym, eating better. That lasts a day, and then you're back to the normal. But what did Jesus give us? Why are we still here 2,000 years later? Isaiah 9:6 says this, For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God. Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God. So can we get the verse on this? No verse on the screen? Okay. So hopefully you have your Bibles and you can follow along. So Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God. Wonderful Counselor. In the actual verbiage and understanding what wonderful means, in classic English in America, we say, oh, that's wonderful, good job, woohoo, yeah, participation award. That's what we've done to the word wonderful. Wonderful literally means to be in awe, to be amazed, to be in wonder. That's what wonderful means. You're full of wonder. How in the world did God choose to get a baby through a virgin, and then Joseph's okay with his fiance getting knocked up by the Holy Spirit? How does this, that's just what? What's going on with this whole thing that the Israelites are facing slavery from the Assyrians who are pressing in on them, and Isaiah's like, it's going to be okay because there's going to be a child that's going to be born. So don't worry. right now that you're being oppressed and you're probably going to be enslaved by the Assyrians, your enemy. Don't worry about that, because guess what? There's coming judgment. You're going to be judged, but one day a kid's going to be born. It's going to be great. The government's going to be on his shoulders, and he's going to be the wonderful counselor. Isn't that awesome? Like reading that, you're like, I don't get it. I don't understand. And it's hard because we live in America, where we have Mexico to the south, Canada to the north. But in Israel, when I was there, it's so small. Like it's geographically, it's so tiny. And literally when an invading army would be moving in, they were like right there on their doorstep, just ready to pounce, like 20, 30 miles away. They'd take out Israel and overthrow them. And so there was this constant threat, and they're focusing on themselves, not God. And so they were literally in confusion, and they had no comfort. There's none. They were looking to the world to bring comfort. They were looking to the presents. They were looking to the things they could get, but they were confused. And so Isaiah said, hey, here's the deal. You're going to be full of wonder when this kid's born, because God's going to give you a gift. He's going to give you the best gift ever. He's going to give you his son. And his name will be called Wonderful Counselor. You'll be full of wonder by his counsel and his truth. And if you guys read the New Testament, you see over and over, time and again, everyone's mind is blown every time he tells a story, every time he speaks truth. They're like, who is this guy? No one's ever come and spoken like him. No one's ever come and done the amazing things that he's done. Just in the first couple chapters of Luke, you see kids getting raised from the dead. You see sight given to the blind. You see all these amazing miracles, and everyone's losing their mind because he's the wonderful counselor. Everyone's full of wonder by his teaching, by his care, and by his words. And so, wonderful counselor literally means he's going to bring us clarity. He's going to clarify why we're here and what we're meant to do. And so as we see, we made this sweet box just to help us get this in our mind, that Jesus, literally, his name would be Wonderful Counselor. We would be full of wonder at his words and in his direction, and as he shares with us the truth. In John 14, he says, I'm the way, I'm the truth, I'm the life. The reason he told his disciples that was because they were still confused on who he was. They're like, so where are you going and how do we get to where you're going? And Jesus is like, dude, I've been with you guys 3 years. I'm the way, I'm the truth, and I'm the life. No one gets to God except through me. And they were full of wonder and amazement at his words and how he was God, and both God and man. And so we see the first name that's given to Jesus is Wonderful Counselor. The second is Mighty God. And as I think about the idea of a mighty God, it's so important to realize in context, there's a nation that's about to be overthrown by their enemies, and they're relying on God to be the mighty one that will conquer their enemies, that will win the victories. And I think for us as individuals, so much of the time we go, oh man, I'm so frustrated with my parents, or things aren't going well with my friends, and we easily just look to maybe what we can do better, or just gossiping or talking bad, or going to just, I'm not going to hang out with them anymore. But how often are we going, you know what? God's bigger, God's better, and whatever I'm facing, however depressed, however bleak my situation is, God's bigger. You know, the story of David and Goliath. David rolls up to bring his brother's lunch, which is kind of weird because you wouldn't ever just say, hey, can you go bring your brother's lunch and at the battlefront? You know, could you just go hang out at the battlefront, the front lines? You know, you wouldn't do that. But in that day, you would. You just said, hey, David, take a break from watching the sheep. Here's some peanut butter and jellies. Here's the Cheetos, Jason likes. Here's the Fritos, the chili Fritos. Make sure, Joe gets those. He loves those. Go give lunch to your brothers. He gets there, gives his brothers lunch. And then he overhears this giant And Goliath was a descendant of the Nephilim in Genesis, so he was half demon, half man, like this crazy, huge giant, and he's just making fun of the Israelites, and he's saying, your God's nothing, your God's so puny, you can't even prove he's real, you guys have nothing, and by the way, I'm going to kill you all, and literally he's like, dude, I'm going to kill you all, and I'm going to have you on toast. You know, he's just going for it, just like the most outlandish claims, like, dude, he's going to put us on, I mean, I know he's like a giant, and that's weird, but like, eat us? No, that's weird. But they were just shaking in fear, and David's like, dude, I got a sling and a stone, I'll take him. What's the big deal here? Like, I have God on my side. I don't just have a God, I have the one true God, I have the mighty God, and I know this. I know that my God is mighty. So he's like, dude, why haven't you guys know the same God that I do? Because if you do, then you would just take him out right now, because there's no reason he should be allowed to continue to blaspheme the one true God, the mighty God, the God of Israel. We got to take care of this. And so he's like, I'll do it. You know, in God's name, I can do it. And the king at the time was like, whoa, you can't just go out there. You're like small. You're kind of, going through the awkward puberty stage. Like, I just don't know. You don't have a lot of muscle on your bones. Here, put this armor on, and he puts all this armor on. He's like, dude, this is way too cumbersome. I can't do it. Just let me go out there in the name of the Lord and my sling, and I'll get some stones on the way there. So he literally just walks out there with a sling, and before he gets to Goliath, he bends down the river and grabs 5 smooth stones. And he walks up to Goliath, and Goliath's laughing and mocking and jeering. And David's like, here's the deal, dude. Like, you come at me with a spear and a sword, but I come at you in the name of the Lord, the name of the mighty God. And so before Goliath could even throw a spear, David just slings a little rock, and it knocks him down. And then Goliath goes down hard. David runs up there, grabs the sword, and chops off his head and holds up the giant's head and is like, dude, the mighty God did this. Israel stood for God that day. Israel was able to be the light that they were called to be because David knew the mighty God. And the reason I tell you that story is because that is the mighty God that was born as a little infant. That was the mighty God that came and experienced life, going through the infant stage, the baby phase, the awkward puberty stage, and looking around at everything the world could offer, looking around at everything the world could give. And yet, even though he was fully man, being fully tempted as you and I are, he was fully God, the mighty God. The God who's bigger than all of your Goliaths, the God that's bigger than all of the distractions, and more important, is literally given to us. And Jesus says, literally, he says, blessed is the man who doesn't take offense at my words. Blessed is the man who doesn't take offense at my words. Basically, if I'm the wonderful counselor, you should be full of wonder at my words. And you should trust and have comfort in the fact that I'm the mighty God that will conquer all of your Goliaths. I'm the one who brought victory to David that day. I'm the one that will bring victory to you. And that all began when Jesus was born in a manger, sometime in the summer, not even in December. It's way too cold for shepherds to be outside in the snow. There's no way. It's freezing. But regardless of when we choose to pull out the lights, put up a tree, and put presents under it, regardless of when that happens, is Jesus your wonderful counselor, your mighty God? Or is Jesus the little baby that you put in a manger around December and look at the little baby and leave him there? Because it's interesting, we have the little baby and we have Jesus on the cross as images that oftentimes are associated with Jesus. But we don't have the mighty God, the wonderful counselor. We don't have that in front of our face daily. And so I want to encourage you guys, as you leave and you go to Hubs and you talk about, hey, do I have clarity in my life? Or is there a lot of confusion? Do I have comfort in knowing that God is the mighty God that conquered Goliath and provided and rescued and saved Israel time and time again throughout the Old Testament? And then Isaiah in the Old Testament, when there was no hope, when it was all gloom and doom and everyone's freaking out, losing their minds, which we don't know anything about that cultural state at all, do we? Because we're all happy-go-lucky here in America still. No, there's a lot of just confusion. And Jesus is our wonderful counselor, our mighty God. But in this time when Isaiah wrote this, not everyone listened. Not everyone was focused on who Jesus was and what he was going to bring. And so that's why he says, "For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace." And in verse 7 it says, "Of the increase of his government and peace there will be no end, on the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish it and uphold it with justice and with righteousness from this time forth and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this." So Jesus' literal rule and reign will last forever. There's no end. And what God gave us with that gift of that son being born that day wasn't just, oh cool, there's a great light that appeared and wise men followed and gave him some good things. Like that literally changed everything. The birth of Jesus had Herod so angry he ordered every 2-year-old dead. But yet God was bigger than that and told Joseph to bounce before they could get Jesus. And every time Jesus would say something and people would want to kill him, Jesus just, it wasn't his time. Until he gave his life up for us so that we would see the example. We would know his words are true. We would know in Isaiah, before Jesus even came, Isaiah pointed to Jesus. Which reminds us that no matter where we read in Scripture, it's all about Jesus. And when we get to Jesus, it's not just let's open the book and read about him and see some cool stories. It's, man, God is so passionate about each and every one of you. And he has such a big plan for you guys. And he's invited you, come, see the newborn king. Come, worship him. Now go and tell everybody about him. And don't come back without somebody. Every time Jesus went somewhere, there was not one person that showed up by themselves. Look at it. Everyone they're sick, they're lame, they're dying, they're hurting, they're depressed. Why? Because they brought him to the wonderful counselor. They brought him to the mighty God. No one showed up to youth group by themselves. Everyone found somebody that was sitting by themselves at lunch and said, dude, you got to come meet Jesus because he's the wonderful counselor. He's the mighty God, and you need some full of wonder counsel right now because you're hurting and you need to trust in the mighty God because you got some stuff going on. And I just see that and I'm reminded that, man, there's a time and place where there wasn't the newborn king. And all they had was to look forward to that day. And how distracted they were and how distraught they were. And now today, we have the newborn king. And we don't have him as a baby. We don't have him on the cross. We have him ruling and reigning from heaven. And everywhere his kingdom is apparent is where his people are doing his will, where his people are obeying him. And that's why when Jesus says, blessed is the man who doesn't take offense at my words, I want to encourage you with that. Do you take offense with Jesus' words? Are you leaning and listening into Jesus as your wonderful counselor? Do you trust that his words actually have power to change a person's life? And what are you doing with that gift? I think a lot of times what I've ended up doing with it is going, this is awesome. Like, these gifts are for me? This is so great. I won't scratch the cool glitter. And we just sit here and we're like, this is awesome. Got my fire, got wonderful counselor, mighty God. Can't touch this, God's got my back. And then we just hide like this. And we're like, dude, God's awesome, mighty God, wonderful counselor. And then after Christmas, we're like, all right, that's cool. Presents, let's put them away. And then we kind of go, all right, yeah, what else is next, Oh, there's this sporting event, there's this test, there's this relationship. I broke up with her, broke up with him, now what about this? And we move on to focusing on other things. And we become selfish. But every time I've held on to one of these, and I've given the gift to somebody else, there you go. You can have mighty God. Every time I've given the gift, there's something that happens. There you go, Gabe. Wonderful counselor. Don't scratch the glitter. It's pretty cool. Every time I've given the gift, it takes effort. It's kind of awkward. They didn't even oh, he's actually giving me a gift right now. Okay. There's nothing in it, so don't open it. But here's the thing. When Jesus came, he was the gift that God gave. God gave us the example by giving everything. He gave us his son, and he gave us everything. And Jesus says, now go and give me to everyone else. Go and tell me. And every time you come to meet, every time you come to Jesus, you're bringing somebody else. And that's the example Jesus set. And that's the example God set at Christmas. And so I think a lot of times we wait and wait and wait, and then we open up our gifts. How often are we focused on, okay, this is a Christmas season, who's hurting, who's broken, who's blind, who's helpless that I can help, who's alone that I can come and just destroy the aloneness with some company and some companionship. Who can I help? And I want to encourage you with this example that, man, there was a kid born that came into this world to show us he experienced everything like us, but yet didn't sin. And he was so aware of everyone else. And then he calls us, hey, look, I've given you clarity and I've given you comfort. You don't have anything to worry about. Now go give me to other people. Go give me to other people who are needy, hurting, helpless. Because I came to restore what was broken. I came to mend all of the things that were frayed and falling apart. And that's why Jesus is our wonderful counselor, our mighty God. He brings us clarity and he brings us comfort. We don't need to be distraught or depressed or confused. We just need to focus on him, follow him, obey him, and experience the blessing that brings. A lot of times we say, I don't know, I just haven't really felt God in a while. Well, are you focusing on the fact he's our wonderful counselor? Are we full of wonder at his teaching and direction? Are we actually going, okay, God, you're the mighty God. This person's alone, and I have to leave my circle of friends to go hang out with them. I'm kind of afraid of what they might say. Well, I don't know, this person I've been trying to get to come to youth group, but they just kind of don't. I guess I'm just going to give up. Like, God's the God that took out Goliath, and he took out part of the Red Sea, and he somehow made it so a baby could be born into a virgin and grew up to be the God, fully man, dying on a cross and rose from the grave. I think he can handle your friends. I think he can handle the person that doesn't know him yet. And I think he's going to give you the strength to do that and obey him. And I think he's going to change your perspective as you read his words and are changed through his words. But it means that maybe you have to pick up the word and read it. And so that's why we're focusing on just this one verse. So I hope you'd memorize it, read it, remember it, and obey it. So Isaiah 9:6, grab a Bible, open the Bible app on your phone, read it, memorize it. We'll finish the verse next week. Let me pray for you guys.